A great question to ask yourself is, what keeps me stuck in this loop? Do you often find yourself feeling stuck and hopeless and then getting frustrated because you're feeling so stuck and hopeless? And sometimes you just feel like the world can be so heavy and burdensome, and sometimes you might lose your will to live and ask yourself, why am I here? What is the purpose? Like, life just feels really hard, and why do I keep finding myself in this sticky, icky experience? Why? Why? Well, you find yourself in this loop because there's obviously some form of lesson that needs to be learned, and there's some form of obstacle that needs to be overcome, that needs to be faced and overcome. And of course, everyone's going to be different. We all have different lessons, different obstacles to face, overcome, learn from. And so we're all unique in that aspect. However, there is a similar base that we all kind of have that leads to this feeling of dissatisfaction, complete numbness. And the base qualities of this loop is often we're running away from something that we need to face. We're not fully embodying our worth. There's a lack of self-esteem and a lack of resilience to overcoming hardship. And there's often some form of lack mentality that lives in our minds that keeps us stuck in victimhood and victim mode. Once again, why me? Why? Why am I here? Why am I living? What is my purpose? I'm so over this. I hate this. Trust me, I've been there. Trust me, I've been there. And it sucks. Hence the video, why I'm making this video. And so to overcome this dissatisfaction loop, we have to ask ourselves, what is the common denominator between all of these occurrences? I don't know about you, but for me, I would find myself periodically maybe every quarter of the year, maybe 3 times a year. No, every quarter, at least 4 times a year, I would find myself in this repetitive loop of dissatisfaction, this deep, tight stuckness, and this frustration of feeling so stuck. And then it was overwhelming to the point of numbness. And it's hard to move from that space or to find purpose from that space, to find meaning from that space. And so for me, I had to ask myself, what is the common denominator between all of these occurrences? And looking into that question, dissecting that question, I noticed that I was running away from things that I knew I had to face, but I kept putting them off. Hence the first quality of or running away from something. So for me, there are some things that I know I have to overcome, but sometimes I found the easy way out and found an alternative route that I could do to avoid going down the route I deeply know my soul needs to go down, but I would find an alternative route. And so that alternative route would work for a little while, and then it would bring me right back to a place of deep, deep dissatisfaction and frustration and stuckness. And one of my biggest lessons in this life is fully embodying empowerment and self-worth. And sometimes if that felt too much or too big or too scary, I would find an alternative route so I wouldn't have to step into the discomfort of that route, of stepping into more of myself, embodying more of me and my power and my worth. And so there's never an easy route. There's never an easy route. And if there is a little, like a cheat route that you can go to get to where you want to be quicker, it always ends up at a dead end, or it leads right back to the same place where you began. And so it doesn't matter how many times you go around that cycle, that loop, you're always just going to be back at what you have to face. There's no getting away from your soul's lessons in this life. There's truly no way. I mean, you can avoid it, you can suppress it, you can push it down, you can do all the drugs, you can drink all the alcohol, you can do all the things to numb that part of you and avoid it and not touch that area of lesson, of your soul's lesson. But then you're going to feel frustrated and you're going to feel heavy and burdensome, and that could lead to health problems. And then you're just going to have this overall dissatisfaction of life. And it's going to be hard to see the good in life. And so another thing I noticed was the lack of self-esteem and lack of resilience. And so I'm a pretty strong and resilient person. I'm very adaptable. But when it comes to like these deep-rooted lessons that I intuitively know I have to work through, sometimes I shy away from them. And we all do it. There's no shame in the game. And I would let myself shy away. I wouldn't have, I guess, that discipline or that devotion to self to push through when things got really, really tough internally. Sometimes I would just opt out for the easier option. And so that obviously doesn't help your resilience. Sometimes it's hard to have that resilience when you feel so depleted, because you just feel so depleted because you're lacking energy, you're lacking motivation, you're lacking desire or will to live. You're lacking all of these things. And so resilience can feel impossible at that point. And so resilience is kind of like a skill that needs to be learned through experience and time with it. It takes falls to get back up, to be stronger, and then to fall again, to rise back even stronger, and fall to rise even stronger. And it's a cycle. Like everything in life is a cycle, as my sister-in-law says. Life is cyclic. Cyclic? Cycle. It is a cycle. Life is a cycle. Everything in life is a cycle. And then what I noticed for myself was this lack mentality in my mind, this victim mentality of, oh, I can't do that, or I can't be that, or I can't step into this version of myself. We all have victim mentality residing in us, and it's the amount of power and attention you give to those victim thoughts that will dictate how much you're living in that experience. And so we all go through waves of noticing the victim, releasing it, noticing the victim, releasing it, and then we learn to just not listen so much to the victim mentality. However, sometimes that voice can be really loud, And once again, a cycle. Sometimes you have to listen to it deeply to then realize that's not truth. A big victim mentality mindset for me was, I'm not good enough. And I'm sure many people can relate to that. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not capable enough. And so that victim mindset, that lack mentality, would keep me from overcoming the obstacle that I need to overcome the loop. And so, once again, time and time again, cycle after cycle, I gained more resilience. I gained more strength in overcoming, or not overcoming, but strength in disallowing myself to listen and give so much attention to the victim mentality. That is one of the biggest things. This lack mentality, this limited mindset, this victim mentality, this is a huge part of why we find ourselves in this dissatisfaction loop, because we have something in our minds that keeps us in it. So I invite you to ask yourself, what is the common denominator between all of my cycles, all of my loops, my experiences of this dissatisfaction, this frustration, this stuckness? What is the common denominator? What do you know intuitively? What do you know that you have to do? And on a soul level, like, what is your soul asking you to do? But you keep avoiding it. I'm sure you know what is keeping you stuck. Sometimes it takes a certain amount of loops to really drill in our minds, like, okay, I get it. I'm done with the cycle. I'm going to opt out for the long run, the harder path, but the more fulfilling path. I don't know if you are also a stubborn soul, but I am a hugely stubborn soul, unfortunately. And so sometimes it takes me getting in the most intense experience to learn a lesson. It takes me 100 times around the merry-go-round to learn the lesson. Some people, they go around it 3 times and they're like, oh, I understand the lesson. I'm gonna do what I know I have to do. And so if you're like that, kudos to you. I applaud your ease in being able to just snap into what you know you have to do. But some of us are stubborn and we like to learn the hard way. It's like funnily depressing, but no, it's good. It's funny. It's hilarious. But ask yourself, what can you do to get out of the loop? What can you do? What do you know? Even like the littlest baby step. What do you know you have to do? What can you do to move a little bit forward into that reality you know your soul is calling you into? And there is the first step. That is the first step. But if you like this video, make sure to give me a like, subscribe, and join the community. I was researching, how do YouTubers post like photos and post polls and like engage with their community in that sense? And you have to reach 500 subscribers to get to that point. So that's my goal, to reach 500 subscribers, so then I can start posting like videos, and not videos, I'm already posting videos. So I can post photos and polls and other things to engage with you guys more instead of just always videoing. So anyway, with that little tidbit, I wish you a beautiful day, a beautiful week, and I will catch you in my next video. Take care.